G. There you go. The blues in G. Lesson over. Blind Boy Fuller was a North Carolina musician. North Carolina is not exactly the place that most people think of when they think of the blues, but it actually had a really happening scene in the 30s. You got Rev Gary Davis. You got Bull City Red. You also got Floyd Council.
Hey, working man, ain't nothing but
his name evidently inspired the name to Pink Floyd. Floyd from Floyd Council, and Pink was Pink Anderson. I don't know. But of these names, Blind Boy Fuller and Rev Gary Davis, their influence on American music cannot be understated. Now, I'm not really interested in like the diluted British rock and roll blues stuff that they inspired, but still, credit is due. Now, his recorded works, along with Robert Johnson's, they're kind of some of the first examples of this like neo-oral tradition, a tradition where you're still learning music by ear, just like not from the person anymore. You know, it's enough to make like the purist question authenticity, which is a word that I personally have a hard time swallowing. But here you have, you know, Blind Boy Fuller sitting in front of a record, you know, pulling out any lick he can, and then us, you know, decades and decades later, doing the same thing to his record. I don't know. I kind of think it's all stemming from the same source personally, but you know, there's always room to argue. But either way, let's learn this. Let's step it up and go.
And go. Well, you can't stand pat it out, you got to step it up and go.
Now, I think the hero lick of this tune happens right away. It's this bass line. It's relatively simple. Something I like to do, I can't say for sure if he did it or not, but a lot of people do, and I call it feathering. So just in between each of those bass motions, I'm just kind of plucking these upper strings in between. So we've got something like this. It's light, you know, it's not like, it's just kind of like, I think of like a drummer, you know, who's got this like boom, chuck, boom, chuck. In between those chucks, I guess they don't call it boom chuck, that's guitar, kick, snare. In between those snare hits, they're usually feathering, you know, these little rolls in between, and sometimes you can't really even hear it, but it gives it this atmosphere. That's something you can always do, right? You get this thing up to speed, you don't even need to do that, but I like it. Now next comes the C chord, and there's kind of two main chord shapes. I'll show you what I mean here. So the first chord is just a C7 chord, and he plays this pattern over it. And then what he does is he moves his third finger to the G on the low E string, and he moves his pinky to the G on the high string, and he plays this pattern. So he moves this pinky back to that C7 sound, but he does not move this third finger. Technically, we call that a G over C7, if you want to know what to call that for yourself so you can pull it up again. Those two chords together sound like this. What he does is, it's really cool. He plays the next measure, half of it's that G over C7, half of it moves to G. And it's a really swingy kind of cool thing he does. He also just hammers that bass steady, he stops alternating there. So put all that together. And then he closes it with this, moving us to this D7 chord. This is what's called the turnaround. This is the turnaround of the tune. And he's kind of got two parts of this turnaround. First is just the chordal movement, which is D7 to C7. And then he actually does like a turnaround lick. So inside the turnaround, there's kind of two parts. hard part is getting to that 3rd fret before that next measure. It's kind of like a fiddle player where you kind of play the note before the next beat. It adds syncopation and swing. So then the turnaround is relatively simple. Let's listen to it. Yeah. So. Let's put that whole turnaround together. Alright, that's it, and as promised, a playthrough of the whole thing here. Alright, that's it, and the full thing is tabbed out over on the Patreon along with a slow playthrough so you can play along. I also tabbed out one of the breaks he does in this, I think the 2nd break. That's tabbed out, available over on the Patreon, and the slow play along. You can check that out there. This is a part of like a greater series of some Blind Boy Fuller tunes that we're all checking out. And you can check out my tutorial of the Untrue Blues, which is some clips of a live stream that I did where I learned this tune, you know, live in front of everybody. So that might be the D7 chord he's mostly using. That's happening over on the Patreon every month, where I'm doing a monthly live stream. So you can check out that video here, and if you're checking this out late, I'll have another video here of a transcription of Weepin' Willow. So look out for that.